Hi, I'm Shannon Grissom. Are you looking to ignite your creativity? Or how about be inspired by a steady stream of muses? Welcome to Painterly Life, the podcast that celebrates those who create, inspire, and innovate. So whether you're looking to spark your next big idea, reignite your passion, or simply soak in some creative energy, this is the place for you. Painterly Life, where every guest is a new muse, just for you. Welcome to the Painterly Life podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Grissom. Hey, if you'd like to see more inspiring content, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Today's guest is Marco Zecchin. Marco, wow, we're going to look at the journey of creativity through the incredible lens that he has. He's a phenomenal fine art, architectural photographer whose 45-year career blends his Italian heritage, his American roots, and a life shaped by creativity, mentorship, and meaning. Welcome, Marco.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shannon.
So
makes me sound more impressive than I think I am sometimes. So.
Oh, no, you are. Okay, so your photography career spans over 40 years. Can you take us back to a moment where, when you were a kid, did you always know this is what you wanted to do? How did that all start?
No, not really. My mom and dad were both artistic. My father being an architect, but he also drew and designed, obviously, for his work. And my mother was just a very crafty person, but also a very talented artist, both painting, pastel work, sculpture, you name it. She just got into it. So it was always around us at home. And so we were always encouraged, my brother and I were always encouraged to include art in our daily activity in some form or other, if not just because they would have, paint by numbers hanging around the house or some mosaic project. But it wasn't until I turned 12 or 11 or 12, and we were traveling back and forth every other year to Connecticut, when I was introduced, or we went and visited a gentleman by the name of Robin Perry in Connecticut. And he was a friend of my mom's from way back, and he was a photographer. And we went over there. I was fascinated. My father was the photographer of the family, but he suggested that we go into the darkroom and he'd show us how that worked. And to be honest with you, when I saw the first image come up in that developing soup, the magic was total. It's a cliche, I know, but I was hooked. And so the entire drive back, the 5 days in the car, driving back to California, I was a nuisance to my mom and dad, I'm sure, saying, I really want to set up. I want a dark room at home. I want to, I figure I'll use part of my closet. And, I'm in the back seat of this car for 5 days doing this to them. I'm sure it was just nuts. Anyway, we got back. They did buy me a camera. I got my first brownie at the time. And then ended up having, at Christmas time, getting a gift of a kit, a darkroom kit.
Wow.
And so I spent the next months putting together this little darkroom in my closet in my bedroom. My clothes smelled of developer and fixer for years because of this. But I set that up and quickly learned that my allowance at the time was not going to cover all the product or all the print paper and the processing and the film that I needed. So what wild hair got me out of the house and took me to the local park to photograph the kids there and then offer the parents purchase prints.
Wow.
was insane. I look back at it now. Thankfully, it was a more innocent time back in the early 60s.
Yeah.
And, but there I was and making a bit of money to help me continue with this hobby and this experience of taking photographs. And pretty much that was the start, and continued from there throughout my life. So one form or another. Some moments of respites where I got away from it for a while, but I always came back to it in one fashion or another.
Well, you talked about your parents supporting you in all ways, and how were you influenced, since your dad was in architecture and photography? How did that influence what you create?
Well, as far as the architecture is concerned, because that's my commercial side, is the architecture and interior design work. He was very passionate about his architecture and about design and architectural design. So all of these trips back and forth to the East Coast, he would design a travel plan that would go and see these new buildings that he really wanted to see in person. That were being built during that time. So in Chicago, in Oklahoma, in Oklahoma City, in Kansas City, New York City, Boston, all over the place, we would go to see these wonderful projects. And just by being in front of them and his passion for them, it was infectious. So it just became part of how I started seeing buildings. And that was how my integration, or how he integrated into my life. My mom was always involved with the arts, and always, even on the trips, for example, she would look up at the clouds that were passing through the sky. I mean, we were kids at the time, entertaining us in the car, traveling across country. Something needed to be done. So she would look at clouds and say, "Hey, do you see the elephant there? Or do you see the alligator in that one? Or what do you see in that one?" And it was an opportunity to get really creative and allow my brain to look at something and be beyond the obvious. It's just a cloud. What's the shapes? What's the forms? What's the graphics in it? So inadvertently, that, I think, informed me from my mother's side how to look at things differently, how to see things beyond what's represented there, and to, just allow that creativity, allow that opportunity to see things differently, that were very common and very much an everyday experience.
I think allowing is the key there, and there's having your own vision of what you want to do. And when you can incorporate that with allowing things to come to you, that's totally magical as well.
It is.
I was thinking about your, both your fine art and your architectural photography have this wonderful patina to them. And there's a timeless quality in all of your work. And so I'm wondering if that's influenced by your time in Italy, or how does Italy intertwine with your work?
That's an interesting question. My father was an art historian, was his degree from the University of Art in Venice, in Venice, Italy. So he brought, and we always had at the home, books on the Renaissance and all of the Renaissance painters and such. So had a very informal and yet life filled with those images, and those classic images, certainly, of the Renaissance. I remember that one instance where my father had said, "Okay, we're going to go to Italy. You're 12, 13 at the time, and I've got a request for you to choose one piece of art that you're going to study, and then we're going to stand in front of it when we get there, and you have to tell me the story of it. I don't know why I chose Ghiberti's Gates of Paradise from in Florence, at the baptistry in Florence, but the gates were something that caught my attention, and so I ended up studying them. And then I was standing in front of this. My dad says, "Okay, give me the story." And a little crowd started gathering around while this 12-year-old was still telling the story, being the tour guide for the baptistry doors at the Gates of Paradise, for the doors at the baptistry at Florence, San Maria del Fiore there, in Italian as well. So it was, I think that type of experience certainly influenced me, and going into the cathedrals, and there's a timelessness to that when you unconsciously integrate history of art and the history of, or you're just filling your head with tons of images of that type of history. Architecturally, my dad always had these architectural magazines around the house, so seeing those classic images from the 60s, that 50s and 60s, that certainly influenced me and continue to influence me, even though I'm taking photographs, in color, and those were all in black and white. There's a graphic quality. There's this, not just photographic, there's this graphic quality that I look for as I'm going around taking photographs. So timelessness, I think, is just an influence of my history, as far as getting to know art through those historic paintings and photographs.
I know along the way you had the rare opportunity of being mentored by Morley Baer. And so how did that shape your work?
Wow. Well, he was a wonderful, amazing mentor, first off, an amazing photographer, both on the fine art side as well as the architectural interior design work. He, in fact, over the years of being with him, I found out that he actually took some of the photographs that my father's firm made. So it was this long established. Well, his photographs from the 60s and the 50s were part of that genre that now reside in this head as a library of images. But his mentorship was extraordinary to me. The biggest thing, there was many things about his mentorship that just was extraordinary and unique to him. And the main one was that he saw a talent in me. I was 30 years of age when I started being his assistant. So I'd had a few years of being a photographer, but he transformed this lump that I was, a technical lump, into something that was more thoughtful. Because he provided me with the permission to approach my work from a place of feeling or of emotion, of passion, that transcended the technical, that transcended the craft. And up to that point, I had no one that really allowed me or gave me permission to even explore that component. And so from that point forward, it's been a really interesting change for me to, recognizing the feelings that I have for something and then photographing it and imbuing or seeing how imbued it would get with the feelings that I had. And he was a master at this because his grandfather would say, I don't care what the heck you do, just do it with feeling. Mm-hmm. And so he carried that message forward in his mentorship, but also in the classes that he taught. So do things mit feeling was his terminology for it. But I would watch him photograph. He would take his camera on a big old 8x10 camera on a big wooden tripod and put it on his shoulder, and he would walk and look for a subject matter. He would be just wandering, and he would sway back and forth, move back and side to side and back and forth. And the vibration, he used the camera and the tripod like a dowsing rod.
Wow.
I mean, it would just aim him into and concentrate the feeling of the image until he put the tripod down and would very often not move it from that spot. And he wouldn't place it until he had concentrated the feelings that he'd had about that subject matter to such an extent that it made it was clear to the point of actually placing the tripod exactly where he wanted, and not moving it from that point on. And then just the technical component came to it after that. But to that point, it was entirely a feeling. And to watch him find and condense that feeling or concentrate that feeling to the point where he would set the camera down was an opportunity that I've actually got it the way it's how I work these days is I don't set the camera down until I see the image, and I'm walking back and forth, and I'm doing that almost a mantra, or a way of engaging my feelings through this movement of my own body to where the oscillation becomes so tight that boom, okay, I'm here. I just found this spot for myself.
Oh, I totally get that. And it's interesting. I've for a long time used my body as a pendulum when trying to decide what to do. But I never took it. Ooh, I'm excited. I never took it to that level with my painting. Every once in a while, I'll say, okay, I have several works in progress in the studio. What do I work on today? And there's a logical side of me that says you need to get this done for whatever commission you're working on, and the other's like, what are you feeling, Shannon? What where are you going with that today?
Right.
So sometimes when I'm struggling with that, I will use my body as a pendulum for that. I mean, I use it for all kinds of other things, but I never thought about doing that before I start. So I think you've already given me some tools to shift and just really embrace that emotional side before I ever start creating, and how powerful that is. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Well, I'm sure that you do it already, though, Shannon. And the fact is that I recognize when I go, so part of my commercial side, I go in and I scout a project. I go in beforehand with the architect or with the contractor, whomever I'm working with, and I want to find out about the project. I want to hear the story of that project. So but I walk into these spaces and I start, honestly, it's ridiculous, but this is what I do. I start bouncing in my own shoes. I feel the energy, the tension or the excitement of being in this new environment. And one of the things that Morley said to me that influences me to this day as well is that you've got to find something to love in the project that you're photographing. If you don't find that, you're not going to find its own beauty. So you need to find that passion, that love. Really, it's what he said. Find that love so that the beauty starts coming to you. So you start seeing that beauty. For me, it's this excitement, this energy that makes me actually bounce in my shoes as I'm coming in. And I'll walk around a corner and go, wow. Oh, look at that. I mean, I feel absolutely an idiot when I'm doing this, but my clients have learned that just let him do his thing. And yes, I do sound like an idiot at times, but it's my process and it's my authentic a relationship, my initial relationship with that surrounding that I now really get a kick out of, and that I really enjoy exploring while I'm scouting, and use it to direct my camera in hand, because I'm always taking photographs of these things as a reminder of what I would like to go and photograph afterwards. So I use it as a guidance to the things that I'm really passionate about, or I find very interesting, in the sense of, ooh, there's something really great here. It is a moment. So I use that. I use that gosh, what is primal approach to it, because it has so little. I mean, I'm acting like an idiot in front of these people, and I don't care. But because that's what's authentic to me, and in that authenticity, you find really amazing viewpoints and amazing opportunities, because you're open. You're absolutely open to whatever the environment has to offer to you. So that's become a process. It's my own personal process, coming from Morley, using the tripod as his guide. So, but it's just feelings, and really enjoying and accessing those. And it's the vehicle into your own creativity, at least for me. Mm-hmm. May I just take another side story really quick? Go
for it, yeah.
So I was a young guy working with Morley, and I remember we were driving up to an assignment up in Bodega Bay, I believe. And he was always doing his fine art work first thing in the morning. We'd be driving someplace, he'd see something, and he would jump out of the car, set up his camera, take a photograph, and then we'd go to the assignment. And after the assignment, if he still had some energy, and mind you, this man was already in his 70s when I was working with him, and he would jump out of the car, set up that 8x10, and take some more, maybe one or two more photographs as we were driving back to wherever we were staying, or even coming back home. Constantly taking photographs. And it was mishmash of commercial and the fine art, and the commercial and then the fine art. So it was constantly going back and forth between that. And then I had read somewhere or heard something, about, if you're going to be a true artist, you shouldn't be doing any commercial work because it'll influence your artwork. And I asked him about it. I said, how do you do that? How do you separate it? And how do you separate these two halves? Because you seem to do it all the time. And he says, I don't.
Yes.
I don't. His comment was, creativity is the coin of the realm for us as artists. Our tapping into our creativity is our art form. Whatever we do, the specific art form isn't what we do. It's our ability to tap into our creativity, which everybody can do, mind you. But we just happen to engage in that much more readily. So that being the coin of the realm, working for a client who's paying me to tap into my creativity to photograph or create something in their image or in their stead, is a way for me to tap into my creativity again, differently, but tapping into my creativity. And then he would smile, and he sat there and he said to me, and he goes, and some clients were really good. They would give me the information, then they would let me go and do my thing. They trusted me in their vision, and I would create whatever it is they wanted. Then I had other clients who were not as good a client, and were trying to make me a tool for their vision, as opposed to allowing my vision to be what they would get. And I would see how my creativity worked in those two very distinctive environments. But it also taught me, because if I'm doing my own personal work, he said, I'm a client of my own creativity at that point. So it taught me how to be a better client to myself, to my own creativity, because I saw how certain people were really good about it and some people were not as good about it.
Yeah.
So the experience informed him on how to be the client to his own creativity. So his fine artwork became a way of him recognizing that, oh, my coin of the realm is my creativity. I'm asking as my client, as myself, I am the client to my creativity to do something here, make something, or to create something. And so the information that he got from that experience was, one, how to tap into his own creativity better and get paid for it. And two, how to be a better client of his own creativity. So that when he asked upon it, he knew how to do it so that he would respond and be the best creator of that for that particular client, be it himself. So yeah, that was a huge lesson to learn from him as far as what creativity really meant to him and how he engaged it. But then there was this technical component to it as well. But it was more philosophical than technical. And it started early on. When I first started working for him, we were going all over the place and doing photographs, interiors, exteriors, you name it. Just one day we were up in Livermore. We were photographing an exterior of a building. And that building had the contractor or the client was able to make sure that the parking lot was entirely empty of cars for us, so that we could take just the photographs of the building and not have to deal with the cars. So we arrived, parking lot's absolutely empty. He already knew where he needed to place the camera. He was setting it up. I'm there bringing stuff to him, and he was setting up the shot. And this delivery truck pulls up in front of the building. And I am, as I was at the time, ready to go and confront the guy, get him out of the way. And Morley put his hand on my shoulder and he says, hang on a second, hang on. I'm not ready. I still have things that I need to get done here before we take the photograph. So I need to take care of these things, and then we'll see whether or not it's time for you to go and tell him to move the truck. And I'm sitting there champing at the bit, honestly, going, oh God, come on, I really need to get this out of the way for you. And he was there, and he was at his own pace, didn't rush it, didn't do it slower, didn't do it faster. At his own pace, he set up the camera, focused it, got the right exposure, aperture and shutter speed, put the film into the camera, pulled the dark slide, covered it up so that it was all light proof, and was standing. And as he pulled up the shutter release to the camera, the guy runs out of the business, climbs into the truck, drives away. As soon as he's out of the way, click, it goes. This happened time and time again. I was flummoxed by this, first off, and then fascinated by this almost magical capability that he had to allow the image to create itself in front of the camera, if you will, by his choosing of that location and then letting it evolve and become, but also recognizing that he needed to get his stuff done first before the image was ready. Well, this got me thinking about a whole lot of things, not just photographically, but life-wise. Mm-hmm. And it became a life philosophy, if you will, or a viewpoint that to this day continues to inform me, because if something is not working well or is not proceeding like you would like it to be, I have things that I need to get done. I need to finish those things before that image or that thing arrives in its full form. So if I can, I'll share just this one metaphor. And that is, I read someplace that the Buddhists use a begging bowl, that they go around to eat, to get food. They'll go around and ask for alms for the begging bowl. And they will have it filled with food, and then they would eat that, and then the bowl would be empty. But the master would always say, empty the bowl first before you go and ask for more food. It became a really interesting concept for me. I said, empty the bowl. How do I empty the bowl? If it's not for food, how do I empty the bowl photographically or business-wise? How do I make that happen? How do I empty myself so I'm available to whatever's coming towards me? And I'm open to whatever's coming towards me. Like Morley was saying, look, I have to finish prepping the camera. He was emptying his bowl so that he had it available. So I was sitting there going, God, this becomes really an interesting concept, both photographically, but also in life. So I started experimenting with this. And I went, okay, I want more projects, more business. I have to empty the bowl. So I have a project. How do I empty the bowl? I empty the bowl by taking the photographs, processing them, getting them ready for delivery, invoicing it, and getting it to my client. Now the bowl is empty. And I said early on, let's just observe. How long does it take for that bowl to be full again, or get some more food in there, if you will? How long will it take for me to have another project in there? And usually it was like a day, maybe two at the very most. It would fill. And I'm just observing. I'm not making any kind of judgment on it. It was just observation. And I giggle. Honestly, I'd go, okay, it's empty. It's empty. And observe. And it would fill. And I'd chuckle. I'd start really giggling and enjoying it. Say, thank you. Find my gratitude in it. And then it would be a day the next time. And then it would be a half day. Then it would be hours before I got a phone call saying, hey, I got a project for you, Marco. Let's get you on the calendar. And that's how I've proceeded from Morley's doing what you have to do to getting the final product out there. That became my mantra. That became my approach to my photography. So in 2013, I knew this was quite a few years in, and this practice became very, very fun, and I was enjoying it, and it was very observable. It also became a two-way street in that there would be times when something wouldn't come to me, and I go, ooh, I guess that bowl isn't empty yet. I need to figure out what it is I need to pull out of that. So it became a discussion with the universe, if you will, that was two-way street. But in 2013, I sat there and I go, this has been really fun. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. Hey, is there any chance of getting a bigger bowl? I think I'm ready for it. I think I can handle it. And in March of 2014, that bigger bowl arrived in the form of a huge client that has been a major source of my income these last 12 years. Yeah. That completely informs me that if you want, you can ask for a bigger bowl. You can ask for all of that, and if you're ready for it, it'll arrive. It's making it a bit more complicated to make sure that it's empty, but the bigger bowl can also hold more food in it, if you will, more things in it. So I have now, as opposed to just a singular project coming in, I've got multiple projects coming in and being held in that bowl. but I'm still emptying it out as often and as quickly as I can. So it's available for more. And so from Morley to today, his influence has been extraordinary and a cornerstone just through that one experience to get to where I am today with regard to work in general or photographic work in general, but also for my life. Okay, if there's a problem in my life, what am I holding on to? Is there, in the bowl of my life bowl, what do I need to pay attention to in here? What do I need to take care of so it's out of here? So that it's open for the energies and open for the blessings that can come and fill it. So yes, it's photography, but through his tutelage, through Morley's tutelage, it's become a life path and a life affirming philosophy that started out as an example of taking a photograph, and now it forms my life in a much more full and authentic fashion.
Oh, it's just wonderful that you shared that. I see that his influence has tremendously impacted your life. And what's wonderful is that by you sharing all of this, it's like ripples in a pond. I think that a lot of people, myself included, start thinking about things in other ways. And I do, or I'm feeling this common thread of tuning in, of allowing, and you pay attention to your life. And that has made all the difference. And I think about my own self, where I can be, I'm dating myself, kind of Mr. Magoo-ish sometimes. I go back and forth between tuning in and zoning out, right? I don't need drugs. I do this all by myself. So I'm very inspired by your share of your journey. Do you ever get stuck? Do you ever have a little trouble adjusting to all of this?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
All the time.
Okay.
No, that's part of the creative process in taking a philosophy and including it into your life. I'll give you an example. 10 years in my career, I was 40. I recognized that I was burning out. I still love photography. I still love taking photographs for people. I love taking photographs for myself. Excuse me. But something had gotten in the way. And I couldn't put my finger on it because I was burning out. I wasn't as effusive. I wasn't as energetically aligned with what was going on in my life at the time. And I realized I changed my focus. Mm. And the focus was to making money as opposed to taking the photographs or even creating a relationship with my clients. I've learned that doing that, at least for me, is a soulless pursuit. That it took me a while. It took me 6 to 8 months of going, God, why am I so uncomfortable here? Why am I not as effective as I used to be? Why am I tired at the end of the day? Why is it I'm dragging my butt out of bed in the morning as opposed to jumping out of bed? And it wasn't an aha moment at that point. It was just this old thing going, God, I really enjoy working with so-and-so. We just have such a great time together. He's such a great client and a good friend. And then little by little, I recognized that, you really are a social animal. You really enjoy having the friendships that you've got. You're working with somebody that you really respect and trust. and that utilizes your creativity in a way that is more authentic to you, Marco, I think I have to change my perspective away from the money and look at the creation of these relationships, these wonderful relationships, and have that personal touch with these individuals, recognizing they're your clients still, but you have that personal relationship. So I know their families, I know their children have done this, or their spouses have done that. And it becomes this wonderful conversation between friends. And, we all want to work with friends.
Yeah.
We love being around people who are friends. And this went along with selling art as well. Patrons wish to have a personal relationship with the artists that they collect. They want to be able to tell the story. Oh, I had spent so much time with Shannon or with Marco, and we had this delightful time chatting over this particular piece of artwork and that they created. So it permeated this whole relationship concept permeated everything at that point, and I realized I'm a social animal, and feeding that part of me eliminated the burnout. It vanished literally overnight when I finally had that aha moment saying, oh, here we are. I'm paying attention to the friendship quality of my clients and of my patrons, and I'm feeling better. I'm feeling lighter. I'm getting out of bed, jumping out of bed in the morning. I'm not as exhausted at the end of the day. I can put in these long hours and not worry about it, or still have energy at the end of the day for myself. It was transformative, and has, thankfully I learned it early on, 10 years in. In the last 30 years, it's been a joy, because that's my go-to place. Yeah, I can get tired. And what I would pass on to somebody is to look, if you really love to do something, if you're really in love with what you're doing, whatever it happens to be, and you get burned out, see what pollutant there is that is preventing you from continuing, as opposed to being burnt out on it. There's always, if it's something you're really passionate about, it's an external that's polluting your energy. Take the challenge, go and find what that pollution is, and then eliminate it as best you can, or embrace it is the other side of that. Just embrace it and go, oh, okay, so you're here, you're back again. Welcome. What do you have to tell me? Listen to what it's saying to you. Pay attention. Give it its due. And then whatever energy it held back from you is now released back into you. So the philosophy goes throughout, or if you start looking at life with philosophical eyes, you'll start learning about the things that encourage you and that you can embrace, that you can nurture from within you. And it's this striking, very clear mirror. Over time, you start cleaning your own mirror, and the reflection becomes more authentic and much richer, and you can move forward with a lot more alacrity and a lot more ease and comfort. And all from simply, for me, taking a photograph and being in the darkroom and being absolutely taken by the magic of this piece of art showing up in this liquid. It is a cliche, completely, Shannon, but I've lived it. I have to say, I've lived it.
Well, you definitely have embraced the magic in all that
I'll
you
try.
create, and look for it.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. That's just wonderful. I think about my own careers or my own modes of creativity over the years, and I like what you say about being your own client. And so tuning into that, it's like adjusting the dial on the radio station. It's like, okay, there's too much static. Stop, tune in. What's really going on? Even if I have a headache or something, I will do a meditation and I will ask, what are you trying to tell me? What am I not seeing? Because obviously you want me to stop and pay attention to you.
Right. Exactly.
And so I am conscious of that and do that. I think the wonderful thing about this podcast was I was getting tired and fried and burned out, and I started this podcast and I was like, wow, this invigorates me. And it's interesting what you say about relationships, because that's what all of this is. So
I'm
yeah,
just going to say,
it's a wonderful
yeah.
thing. And somebody had asked me when I said I was starting the podcast, they said, well, how are you going to make any money? And you know what, with this particular creative endeavor, that was not my focus. My focus was for me to do something positive, to share other people's creations and stories. And so it was just like hugging people, right? It was just like sharing the love. And so it's growing because I'm sharing the love and not focused on, okay, how am I going to monetize this? And did I do that yesterday? And no. So yeah, very good point. Thank you, Marco. So
Sure.
How can people find out more about you? Where can they find you online?
Well, online on the commercial side, my company name is Image Center. So image-center.com is the website. On my fine arts side, it's marcozecchin.com. Directly comes straight to me. But on the various networks, just look me up. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and just look up Marco Zecchin and you'll find me. There's another Marco Zecchin, but he's a European professor. I think people will know that that's not me. So, yeah, that's how people can stay on top of what I do. Mainly Instagram. I use Instagram as my little sounding board.
Okay.
For new ideas.
That's good to know.
And such. So.
I will put all the links in the show notes so that people can readily find you. Wow. Thanks for being here. I think we're going to have you on the show again.
It would be my pleasure. I'd be less nervous probably this time around.
Well, that's a wrap for today. Thank you for being here, Marco. And
thank you, Shannon. Much appreciated.
Oh, you're welcome. And if you are enjoying this content, please help me create more. Like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you next time.